feel free to break it up and ask us random ass questions if you like. Does like just have a conversation.
Okay.
Only difference is we're recording it and they're gonna use it in the court of law. Be careful. Hello. Welcome back, everybody. All you good people. Welcome back to another lab session. I'm Chris. That's Bing with the Labkids, and I have to say, off the bat, you can probably tell on my voice, I'm a little bit nervous, but we've got a special guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, our good friend, new friend to the show, long-time friend of mine, new friend to Bing, but we're going to make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is John Paul Faamausili.
Welcome, sir.
What's up? Oh, me, sorry. You touched on being molded, coaching women. It helped you, it molded you a bit into the coach or leader you are today. You mentioned that, and there seems to be like a sense of humility when you mentioned you're comfortable not knowing everything and not being right all the time. Where does that come from? And is that a common trend with other coaches you've kind of brushed shoulders with or heard of in the kind of in your circles?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a common trend. I don't know if it's a common trend, but yeah. Personally, for me, because it's just something for me. Like it's the way I look at my kids as well. My kids ask me something, if I don't know it, and it's something I tell them too. You know, so if you don't know something, don't come up with an answer that's you've just decided to put together. Just say you don't know, and you'll grow. You know, and so you'll learn. So and that's just been my approach. Is to always be, I guess, being comfortable with failure. The only thing that's worse than failure is regret. So so being comfortable with failure has to be key to growth. You learn more from you learn more from doing something wrong than doing something right. So there's a saying that success is a poor teacher. So sometimes when you're getting things right all the time doesn't mean you're actually succeeding. You just got that moment in time right, but when another moment presents itself, are you ready for it? You might not be, and then sometimes, and for me, being able to go, look, I don't know it. Then for me, the next thing would be, who can point us in this direction? Yeah. And someone would know it.
You just got to know where to find it.
Yeah, or someone might ask the right question, which then trigger us to go, okay, that's a good idea. Maybe we should try that. But in terms of the coaching sense, it just empowers players to be able to speak and provide an input, and they love being involved. If we come across as trying to be that person that knows everything, then we're not really teaching them anything. We're not involving them enough. I feel like involving them allows them to be better, but also they retain information better because
they were a part of the process.
They were part of the process. Yeah, that's really important. That part, which I thought was key to a lot of success in my environments, is just letting them be involved and be happy to sit back. But finding that balance. Yeah. I've had the balance where we sat back too much, and then it can go out a little bit, and then sometimes when you're going too hard as a coach, and then you can kind of see then things aren't quite working because players aren't really either don't agree or they didn't quite get it. Yeah. So it's just finding that balance.
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge or the biggest difference, or answer however you want, like pros and cons in terms of coaching male to females? Like, is there any significant other than the obvious?
I think females have a strong emotional connection. I think they have a strong emotional connection to people around them, people in their space, and they connect to the game. Sometimes boys, they've got an emotional connection to the game, not necessarily to the environment. Sometimes you have to build that. And I think that's probably the 1% that's creating teams to be successful now. For females, it's that they're a bit more sensitive around the emotional connection. So if you can create an awesome environment, they thrive off it. They thrive off that emotional element of the game. So it's a little bit different to men. Like for example, like our women's team, before the game will walk out. They'll have a big song and chant and dance. They'll dance, and it's just for them. That's their energy. That's their vibe, and for them, that's mentally preparing themselves for the game ahead. And it's just connects us. We're connected. We're ready to go. And then they'll come out and do the warm up. I don't need to sing on those, mate. I'm ready to play. You know, but it's just their way of approaching is very different. So they're a little bit more game focused, my role focused. Not saying that girls aren't. They can be, but sometimes they need the reassurance of everyone else that we are on the same page.
The process to get there is a little bit different.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And also like just our you know how you communicate and facilitate conversations with men and women are a little bit different. You know, men, you can just tell them, you know, mate, it's not going good, man. You know, or you can use more colourful words.
Yeah.
And they'll get it, and they'll actually meet you halfway and go, yeah, I know, sorry. You know, females might be a little bit different, so they're a little bit more sensitive to that info. So maybe having the same effect, but with a different way of delivering it. So, not saying that they're all like that. I've had black ferns in my teams before. They don't like it any other way but through the middle.
Okay.
So they tell me I'm not doing really well. They just want to hear that, you know. But they're a small group, you know, like that. But then most of them like to know. Okay, don't want to see your eyes welling up, you know. You did good, you know. But I just like you to work on these things. But you did really good on these things, you know. It's a different way of delivering a same message. Which
I don't like that saying, but some people call it a shit sandwich.
Yeah, just a sandwich. Yeah.
That's it.
Something good, then the bad, and then something good to round it off.
Yeah.
Are you involved with the Blues Opiki team at all?
No. Nah, not. It's just too hard with the timing of the schools and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky to be involved with a lot of those players in that team.
I only say because I heard after their success this season, I heard an interview with Caitlin.
Oh yeah.
And they said, "What's the difference between this team and every other team you've played for?" And she said that connection thing, that connection to one another, and the connection with the game. So I thought maybe that was something that you had to do with, but obviously it's something that they've been able to enhance themselves. Yeah,
It's becoming a common thing now, like because everyone's got training programs. Everyone's got the same kind of strength and conditioning programs. The game is relatively the same in terms of how it's coached, the technical side of the game, and so you just got to find another part of it that's going to be that's going to differ you from another team. And so generally a lot of the girls are running the same fitness times. They're all lifting the same kind of weights, and so if you had to find a point of difference, it has to be how your team and your environment is. And so that at that level and probably beyond, it's a bigger focus now for coaches, is trying to build an environment where they always talk about the strong sense of belonging, and they talk about whanangatanga, which is like family spirit, creating that environment in your that sense of whanangatanga in your environment. It does pull on the right strings of an athlete. They go a little bit beyond. They feel they're part of something, and it gives them a different purpose or another purpose added to obviously what's currently in front of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember having some friends that were involved in. And are we allowed to talk about other rugby teams in this chat? With the Chiefs setup when they were winning their their championships. And then one of our friends moved into another team, and then we asked him what was the difference between coming from the Chiefs Championship team and moving into another Super Rugby team. And he said at the time was that connection with one another, and that's when that the Chiefs mana idea was kind of prominent, and about finding the power within the team and within the players. And when he moved to that other team, that was the biggest difference. Said the training was still the same. We still done all the hard work. But it was just that building that connection with one another. I think that's a very cool thing that you've shared with us, and something that I can take into the work that I do.
Seki. Back to Upiki, what do you know about, or do you know Carlos Spencer, and what's your assessment of his championship?
Oh look, I think you've touched on it. I think you can tell they're a bit more. There's a bit more tighter group, and they've kind of found a style that suits them. But you can see in that final, they've built a real strong sense of resilience within the camp. Being down throughout the whole game and having to win a clutch I think it was they scored at the end.
Right at the end.
Right. You know that for that teams to get in that kind of situation in a final, you got to have that. You know, it got a little bit of run of luck because they got the drop was a knock on. I think that then preceded the rest of the phases of the scrum. I think it was under the post with about a minute or something left to go. But you know, like sometimes you've got to create your own luck. But you know, the ability to have that never give up. You know, no matter how much that time was ticking and they were behind certain points, it was like being present in the now. Yeah, being present in the now and then being able to execute under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Which is it's massive. There's I can't remember a couple of a word that was given to me. I heard from a coach. He describes win-win, and win. First win is what's important now, and then the second win is what's important next. You got to have that real strong mindset around how to deliver under situations where there's a lot of pressure and you're in the moment where you got to nail something that you've been practicing 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So you know, I thought they did that really well at the back end.
Yeah.
So you know, deserved to be the champions. And then Robbie Deans used to say, you practice something 1,000 times, but you only need it once to execute. So you got to nail it. It's good to see the Blues are doing really well, both men and women at the
Both
moment.
men and women, yeah.
Yes, sir. Up the Blues, sorry.
Yeah. Second on the table.
Second on the table, yeah.
Those
Gave-
Canes, though,
gave-
eh?
Gave the
last
Brumbies
night.
a hiding yesterday.
Yeah.
Very good, very. Coming off a bye and
Right.
beating the Force too, very convincingly before that. And then the Force last night upsetting the Crusaders. Is it still an upset to beat the Crusaders now, or
I think it is. I think their legacy is that strong that they could probably
Yeah.
last the entire season.
Yeah.
Anyone that beats them.
In our group chat, everyone's giving them a bit of stick right now. But my head's like, hypothetically, if you ran a club, would you? And some genie said, would you take that many championships? And the only give back is that you're going to be shit one year. Bro, everyone's taking all those shit. How many they got?
You
Like,
take it. Take
it's
what
like
you can.
cycles they talk about, right?
yeah.
Like, can you be so good for so long and then
Well, they have been. I mean,
And now
this year they have been. I mean, the season's not done, but is it?
what's the
Better?
problem? What's going on for the Crusaders?
Yeah, I think there's just been a lot of changes, and obviously they're trying to get through those changes. There's a whole lot of personnel changes, like player staff and coaching staff. It's a real revamp of a club. No matter how good they are, I think they're still trying to find their feet as a club with new people there. Yeah. When you lose a 140 Test veteran in your mid with your pack, you can see why. You know, I'm not sure whether the rumours are true, whether Robertson was trying to bring him back, but you can see why you go to him. He's your steel in your spine, right? So it's like if you lose a guy like that, and then you lose your Maverick 10, who's just been, he's been the form 10 of the country for the last few years and doing really well in Japan. He's just taking his form from the World Cup to Japan now. Those are two massive players, you know, and obviously Robertson is a good coach. He doesn't win 7 championships on the run without being a good coach. So it's a big change, and they'll get through it. They might take a season to get it, but
I take a season. Do they still have a chance?
I think it's slim. I think they had to
I
win.
think mathematically, yeah, they do, but
Because I still, as much as I support the Blues and dislike the Crusaders, there's still a little bit of sadness seeing that current run of form for the Crusaders. I feel like I was always the guy that thought if the Crusaders are doing well, then the All Blacks will do well. And now to see them like this, I don't know where I sit in regards to that ideology anymore.
is it the same as the Wallabies not doing so well for a long time? Or you just like not seeing them do well? I think there's more repercussions for that internationally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell how the ABs will perform, with the Crusaders not being not being where they're at over the last few years. But I think it'd be good for Bledisloe, like to get those close Bledisloe games again.
Yeah.
It could
But
be a
still
bit of
win.
still win. It could be that that silver lining for us as a sport, because it is struggling a little bit. Obviously, NRL is really doing a good job in terms
It's
of
struggling a lot of bit against the NRL
Yeah.
product at the moment.
yeah. So people say, "Oh, league are winning." I say, "Nah, league's not winning. NRL is."
Yeah, okay.
You know,
okay,
so
cool.
two different things.
Yeah.
You know, there's not even a global game anymore. England can't even survive as a country, as a league country. But NRL is thriving. So I just feel like NRL is winning, not league. So I mean, good on them. They just got a really good product that's entertaining and simple, and it's like, for me, I just compare that to WWE, right? The wrestling's almost a side product to the drama. You know, and so they really do a good job with the drama. Like this James Fisher Harris story has been stretched out for about 4 days. I think they've done a good job. As soon as that story came out, it just took over the other story, which I thought they were just playing until they found a new story, and then here it is. Dragged that for about 3 or 4 days. I just think they do that whole entertainment part so well.
So well, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the rugby's got a long way. There's too many. Yeah, probably you can argue to the cows come home, mate. But the game is just becoming a little bit more complex. I think that, like, personally, I just feel like we just got to be happy with referees not making wrong decisions and just live with it. Because when we try and get perfect officiating of a game, it actually kills the game. Because we're looking at every single thing, and we can't. And there's about 200 rucks in the game. And you get one person for a wrong clean out, then okay, go check the other 199 rucks. And then by doing that, you slow the game down, you involve too many people, it becomes more political, and then it's just going to cost teams games. And so you just got to be in contempt that we're going to miss calls and just move on. League do that all the time. I just feel like they miss calls and get on with it, and those calls become good little headings in the Sydney Herald. Yeah. It just creates interest, but they move on. And it just becomes all part of the whole game, the drama of the whole game, and I think they do that really well. They only got one referee now, eh?
Yeah, they're going back to one.
Yeah, see, they went two to try and obviously iron out all the imperfections in the rules, and they're just going, no, hang on, no, just go back to one. Who cares? We're not going to get it perfect. We've got a bunker. He'll do what he can, and we'll just move on. Cool. Yeah. And I just think that rugby is trying to do way too much, and it's not.
I think
it's
too long.
killing the game. Yeah. So you only have to see the World Cup. Yeah. Got killed by a red card.
Yeah. And it's hard to watch rugby as a newbie, as someone that hasn't watched rugby before. It's easier to watch league.
Yep.
If you haven't watched it before.
Yeah.
How do we make that suitable viewing for someone who's never watched rugby before? There's too many rules to understand, and then they'll just switch off halfway through.
Yeah. You spoke about the game in comparison to like a NRL, and you mentioned NRL's winning, but not league. As a product, rugby v league, and your experience and kind of what you know in the rumour mill and your knowledge is we're digging, right? We're the press, man. We're digging, but like with what you know, do you think rugby, with the powers that be, are they doing all they can to promote the game of rugby and to like package it, like to make it palatable for anyone the way NRL is? Are they doing all they can to make it better, is what I'm basically saying?
Yeah. I think they are. I think they're doing what they can, but I just don't think probably. There's some areas where we probably. It's not going to change. Like the numbers, I think there's a big emphasis on growing the game, and the game's just declining. So that the female game is actually supporting the game in general. I mean, so with the decline in the male space, it's been made up by the females. So rugby in the female space is the fastest growing sport in the world globally.
Wow.
So,
shit.
Yeah. So a lot of players are taking up rugby, and so, but it's the opposite end for the male. So. I think they're just trying to keep the game alive. It's almost like we're trying to. It's on a bloody life support, and so But I just think league have just got a completely different approach to it. So I think they've kind of gone away from participation, and they're just gonna they're just living off the whole entertainment value of NRL and how awesome it is to be part of that competition. You know, if you look at it now, they've got Harold Matthews under 17s, SG Ball under 19s. They obviously got the New South Wales Cup. But you get a jersey on and you're flown to and fro Australia at 16 years old, you know. And I've got boys in Harold Matthews team. We're in the final next week. They beat the Doggies in the semi. I've got 4 players in there, my first 15. And, man, at that age, you're going back and forth Australia, you know, as a warrior. And you're living a warrior's dream almost, or you're walking in their shoes for a bit. And how awesome it is for them to go, okay, what do you want to play rugby next year? I'm like, nah. I'm doing this. It's awesome. I got my own traveling with as a warrior, training with the Warriors, in the Warrior system. It's everything. So I just feel like they've gone down the other end, top end, and worked their way down. Well, rugby are going down the other end, junior level, and trying to work their way up. And so they're coming to a head where they're going, this player here is in a position where he can play rugby or league. And now I think league is winning that arm wrestle a little bit because they just got the that representative side of the game down to a letter, you know. So it's just basically telling the player, hey, put a jersey on. How does it feel? Good.
You like that?
Do you like it? Cool. This could be you, and then sold. You know, well, we did the other way, and took away all the rep teams out, because the philosophy around that was that by putting them in a representative jersey, created a sense of elitism inside, you know, amongst our school and club environment. So kids then they thought that they were a lot better than others. Coaches then focused on the elite kids, forgot about the others, and then there was a perception that the numbers were declining because kids weren't being recognised, and so I'm not going to play it now. They're only looking at the good kids, and so they canned all the rugby, all the rep stuff. Roland Mills got canned, Auckland under 14s, under 16s got canned, you know, and it's actually had the opposite effect. By taking the rep teams out, the numbers have actually declined. Well, the Warriors are going, we're going to put more rep teams in. We're loading it up.
More opportunities.
Yeah, and so what our boys are going through, so as soon as before they even started school, they would have played in the Pacific Youth Cup tournament, which is in January. In the middle of summer, you're playing in the league tournament. Straight after that, you're playing in the Auckland Rugby League tournament, which is Dean Bow and the Sean Johnson, which is Sean Johnson's under 16s, Dean Bow's under 18s. And they've got like 4 regional teams in that, so it's white, I think it's white, blue. There's a couple of other teams. So they play in that. That's in February till March. And if you're playing in this Harold Matthews, that goes to now. And so they load the top half of the preseason, which is rugby preseason, with rugby league representative games, you know. And so they're just doing the other end. So rugby's on this end, focusing on growing junior base, reps going up, forget that. It's a lost cause. We can't compete with rugby at that level. We go here. We snatch the kids basically as they get to 14, 15. Thank you. Move them into the league teams. So there's a whole lot of stuff. I personally think that the junior rugby is probably needs a look in around the weights. Years ago when I was at Auckland Rugby, I went to a conference in Waikato with all of us. We call them rugby development officers from across the country. We all had to meet. We met once a year. And we met in Waikato, and we had this big conference. And our head of participation from New Zealand Rugby, Buck Anderson, went up, and then he gave this whole talk about participation and all that stuff. And then he goes to Auckland. Auckland, we need to find the next Jonah Lombu. We looked at each other and we were like, you ain't going to find it in Auckland. You go check out our junior weight restricted grades. It's too light. You know, a lot of our Pacifica boys have to go to league because they're too heavy. And then you look, so for example, a 10-year-old kid playing under 11, he'll be too heavy for under 11, so he has to go and play under 12. You know, and then for some parents go, that's too much of a step up. He can just play under 11. No, he's too heavy. Pulls him out. Go down the road to the league club, under 11, open grade. you know, and then you lose players. So yeah, there's a whole lot of. I think there's just two different. I see there's been two different ways of tackling sport. I think sport in general is declining anyway, just the way the society is. People are more digitally focused, and then they're all very time conscious around where they spend it, and sport in general is struggling. So, I just think, but in terms of the two codes, real different approaches to how they maintain and attract numbers. So I think a lot of the boys that are propping up the First of Dean in that 1A competition, a lot of the athletes are coming out of league.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got that. We've got that. I wouldn't say it's an issue or challenge. It's just kids are just lucky they've got opportunities in both codes, but it's just something you just got to manage and deal with as a rugby coach. And I know a lot of the other top schools are having their own ways of managing that as well.
I was watching that Pacific Youth Cup earlier this year, and I recognised a lot of the boys from some of the first 15 teams
Yeah,
get to have a jam there.
yeah,
And they're so open to letting them come and play too.
yeah,
I know some Samoan boys that are playing in the Fijian teams and things like that.
yeah. And the parents love that stuff, eh? Like you don't want to go touching that. You don't go, hey, you can't play in that because you got preseason. Oh, mate,
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah.
So you just got to let them do their thing and just fingers crossed that then they come back in one piece.
So otherwise, there's no quick fix. There's back to Chris's question. Hey, how do we
Fix rugby.
to turn it into the product that? Because I thought it was. Remember we had this conversation in one of the other lab sessions about the accessibility of the players these days.
Yeah.
And we feel a lot more connected to a lot of the NRL players because of their accessibility via social media and things like that. And I don't feel that same connection with some of our rugby players.
Yeah.
Because they're not as easily accessible. I don't know that we don't see them on social media as much doing and doing the good stuff that we see them doing. We see all of the bad stuff, but I thought that might be. But hearing you now, that there's a lot of grassroots stuff that needs to be focused on before we can expect it to see at the same level as NRL. Because NRL is a lot of fun to watch. And the spectacle. I mean, watching the State of O2 and the build-up and the camera shots on the field when the guy is walking around doing the intro for State of O, like make it like a movie. The spectacle of it all is just so cool to watch as a consumer of the product.
Yeah, I think TV has a big part in it. I think we need to broadcast grassroots rugby in some capacity, whether it's school or club, but it doesn't exist at all.
They stopped broadcasting schoolboy rugby on purpose, eh?
Yeah. So it's just an agreement amongst all the 1A principals that it was in best interest of the students that they don't screen.
Do you agree with that?
I can understand why they said no to live television, but at the same time, it's probably the game changer for rugby as a sport, in terms of competing with rugby league. If that's and for me, I'd rather than going playing it and then having it screened live. Kids games live on TV is not good for their not in their best interest. Obviously, social media and all that pressure to perform and all that stuff. I'd rather just go, look, why don't we just educate?
Yeah, how do we fix it while still?
Yeah, why do we put platforms in to educate students? Maybe make it run workshops on how to deal with media and pressure. I'm sure schools have psychologists. We've got a school psychologist, but we haven't really tapped into that space yet. But it's a space that's growing massively across the country. And I know the government's putting so much funding into mental health and well-being. And one of those things was being able to deal with pressure and coping with emotional pressure at home, pressure to perform, social media pressure amongst your own teams, all of those things. And I think by not, I guess, screening those games, some part of me feels like we're just kind of pretending that it doesn't exist, and then maybe putting that on someone else to take care of.
Yeah,
You know,
true.
and so these boys are within 12 months will be on the big screen playing
Yeah.
NPC, some of them. And if they want to be
They
professional
haven't learnt to
athletes,
deal with it, yeah.
someone has to educate them.
Yeah.
Someone has to teach them. So rather than just stopping it, why don't we just let them know, okay, this exists. How do we help you combat it? So I think that'll help grow the game. Yeah. I just think that when it was televised, I think there was like 60,000 extra Sky subscribers during the first 15 season. So there's definitely a market for it. Where that money goes, I don't know.
No comment.
I don't know, but
Hey?
yeah, but something has to change, I think.
Yeah.
Do you follow or do you know Isaac John? He's the business owner of YKTR brand. Anyway,
Yes.
he's a former NRL player, former Kiwis. Anyway, had a bit of, but he's now a business owner. Now he does these workshops and he does like entrepreneur type workshops and seminars and stuff. And he done one. Obviously, he's in the league circle, so he's done a few clubs there. And he's just recently done one in the Hurricanes. And he put this post up, and he was pointing out the significant differences that during his seminar, the questions he was getting was totally different. So from the league players, they were asking about branding, they were asking about business, entrepreneurship, like access, and all those types of questions. And then when he compared it to the Hurricanes, their questions were a bit different. Their questions were more kind of in line with how do you feel about doing this in public or in line. And this point he was making is that, you know how there's this old school stigma or this there's this general thought that rugby players are straight and narrow and you got to speak a certain way, you got to be a certain way, compared to the league players who are, I guess, a bit loose. Does that still exist, like in your realms of rugby and in the higher levels? Obviously, like there's this I don't know, there's this way to be if you're a rugby player, especially in front of a camera, or if you're talking to media, or if you're at a place where you're representing. Is there a certain way to be? You can't be outside the lane of being a rugby player professional too much.
Yeah, I think I can't speak too much about the league stuff, but I know rugby wise, there's so much there's so much support around a lot of areas of off the field. And so like if you sign up, they encourage you to find a trade or work towards a profession, which I think league are doing now. But there's a lot of areas around mental health, mental well-being. There's a lot of support there. There's media training as well, so you don't get guys going up and saying dumb stuff. They've been prompted about how to respond well. And probably why you don't see so much drama in rugby. You're not going to see someone out there, doing something dodgy out on the middle of the road. Like it's very rare. Well, you see a lot of it in league, whether it was intentional or not, or they just love to have that stuff put on national television, and maybe rugby just go, no, let's just hide this.
Yeah.
But you just don't see it, and then that's probably why the stigma continues to hang around, because the more they show that on national television or comes on social media, it doesn't help the game at all. But yeah, I think I know that rugby has a huge holistic approach to sport, to the game, and it's not about winning rugby and all that stuff. There's a whole lot of it. So I know Graham Henry, when he was doing the Blues, he said better people make better rugby players. So there was a strong emphasis on making sure that the people around the player and the person himself or herself was at the forefront of their development. So you make them happy off the field, they'll play for you on the field. So it's all that kind of mentality, which has been around for a while. And yeah, that's why with concussion, for example, it's quite strict, And I know yeah, I know a couple of players who don't play rugby but play league. You know, they don't understand the protocols when they play rugby. You know, it's like new to them. And I was like, "This is your first concussion?" Nope. I'm like, "So this is the first time you've heard that you've got to stay 3 weeks down?" I'm like, "Yeah." So, okay. You know, and then you learn a little bit. Okay, so it's different. So if you talk to any rugby coach or anyone in the rugby circle, they know straight away it's 3 weeks stand down. 3 weeks stand down. It's a little bit uncertain on the other side, you know. So it's just a different approach. So things like as small as that is not quite universal in the space in league. And I don't want to talk too much about them, but I know in rugby it's very clear. And those are just little small examples of how we carry out and how we develop players and coaches. There is a sense of the person first, and then the player second, and a lot of structure and support is put behind it at the elite level to ensure that they and to ensure that they're all well looked after behind the scenes. So there's definitely like media training. There's a lot of mental well-being support, all that stuff. So I had a friend who worked for Deloitte's accounting firm, and it was many years ago, probably before 2010, and he was running seminars with All Blacks. You know, how to put your money, like as independent accountants. They said who you can speak to, investment opportunities. What happens if you don't do obviously don't file your tax returns? There's a lot of education around financial literacy, just things like that. And this is going way back. Because I think back in the days, a lot of people didn't have a lot of support, so they lost a lot of money. And it's a lot about people, especially. You can turn 1 year within a year. You got $500,000 in your bank account, and then no one has told you how to use it or where you can be spent. So then a lot of money gets wasted or spent on the wrong things. So there's been a lot of examples of poor decisions. So as an example, that's probably a lot of focus on there, how to manage money, but also how to manage your life. Your life changes just like that with that kind of money. So pressure, especially our community. Like there's so much pressure from around our families. And so, man, you're going to pay for all the whalawe for everyone because you're the guy.
You're the money man.
You're the guy.
Yeah.
And and no one knows that. No one knows you're going through that, and you'll be turning up to training every day, and you got to realize that you just paid $20,000 for this one here and another one here and this wedding here, and your second, third cousin's husband's getting married, so you got to pay for that. And that happens.
Yeah.
That happens, but people obviously don't see that, but that happens. So just trying to get support around that. I know some boys, some players put aside a percentage of their salary, their playing contract aside, and then they just play however long, and then by the time they retire, that's just accumulated. So that's one way some people have managed their money, and so they just give themselves a certain amount they want to survive on a year, and the rest just goes into a trust fund and stuff like that. So good examples of.
There have to be some sort of trust fund there. I mean, in your accounting experience, you wouldn't just hide money under your mattress anymore because it doesn't grow and things like that.
So you want to put it into a trust fund, or if you got a term deposit, some boys put them in that depending on what the rate is there. But you want to put it somewhere where it's going to return some sort of you get a good decent return on it, but it's there for safekeeping. So when you do finish up, you'll be happy you got a bit of money put aside. You probably invested in something else by the time you finish. A lot of people are going into properties right now, so that seems to be the go-to option for a lot of the guys. It's just the education around it.
The old Izzy from the UFC, he's got into property. And he's building apartment blocks and things
Man,
like that.
he has, He's got his own Pleasantville now.
Izzyville.
Yeah.